Hi everyone, a very warm welcome back to MEC-TEC. As you can see, we're out on the driveway today and we're back on Freddie the Fusion. Now, it's MOT time, so we've got a job to do on this because it had some advisory last year for the lower ball joint gaiters splitting. I've had a look at them and they are completely gone now, so we need to get these changed before the MOT so it doesn't fail. We'll also be going around checking all the lights, everything else, giving it a damn good clean by the looks of it because it's covered in foliage. Where it's been sitting for a little while. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law who owns this car has hurt her shoulder, so she's not been driving for a little while, so it has been sitting for a little while, and it is a bit covered in stuff, shall we say. So let's get this jacked up in the air. I'll get the wheels off and I'll show you exactly what we're changing. Now, on the lower arms on these, you can obviously replace the whole lower arm. This doesn't need that, it only needs the ball joints, which you can buy separately. It does mean that obviously I'm going to have to get the old ball joints off the lower arms, which are riveted on from new, so we're going to have to grind the rivets off and knock those through. The new ball joints come with nut and bolt to obviously bolt them back in again, so I'll show you that obviously when we get to that in the video. Let's get this in the air and I'll come back to you. Right, with the wheels off, I don't know if you can see that on camera, but that lower ball joint is completely split all the way around. It's absolutely had it, and you can see the same on the other side. It looks a little bit wet around it where the grease has obviously all started to come out. So as you can see, the rivets on the top of the lower arm there. So we need to get the lower arm disconnected from the knuckle. We may be able to do it on the car. Time will tell on that side of things. If we can get the knuckle disconnected from the lower arm, get that out of the way, and then we may be able to get those lower ball joints off in situ. If not, we'll have to undo the lower arm, which is that long bolt going through there and 2 bolts under there. So obviously that time will tell on that side of things. I'm going to get this ball joint undone and then see how much room we've got once the knuckle is disconnected. I'll come back to you in a second. Right, status update. I've not got anywhere. I've got this nut undone and it came off no problem, but the bolt is absolutely seized solid inside this knuckle. So I'm actually waiting for Mrs. MEC-TEC to come home at the moment with a new can for my blowtorch because that's run out, and hopefully we'll get some heat on it. I've absolutely, as you can see, I've mullered that nut trying to hammer it out. I've put the nut back on the bolt to obviously protect the thread, but it just will not move for anything, and I've snapped a socket trying to get it off because it's a star drive Torx bit on the other side. I'll just show you. See under there, hopefully you can see under there in a second. In here is a, let me turn that around a bit, I'll see it better. There you go, you can see the Torx bit in there. I've tried undoing it, it will not move. It's absolutely sea solid, so we need some heat on it. As I say, I'm waiting for the gas for the blowtorch, and then hopefully we might be able to get some progress going and get this off. I'll come back to you when reinforcements have arrived. Right, as you can see, things have escalated somewhat. I've now got the brake caliper off, the brake disc off, the steering rack off, and the drive shaft nut out, all because this bolt will not budge for love nor money. I've heated it up, smashed the hell out of it, melted the gear, the CV gaiter in the process, and I've got to replace that as well. So I'm at the stage now where I'm going to grind off these 3 rivets under here, so this ball joint then becomes free of the arm, and I'm going to take the whole knuckle off. Oh, the ABS sensors out as well, look, see that there. I'm going to take the whole knuckle off and put it in the press, and hopefully we can press that bolt out in the press, get some real welly on it, and hopefully that will do the job. So I'm going to get these 3 rivets ground off the bottom here, and then obviously hopefully get this off and come back to you when we can get it in the press. I'll come back to you in a sec. Okay, once again things have escalated. As you can see, I've now got the complete lower arm out, which was actually 3 bolts here, one going through the subframe into the body, 2 going through the mount into the subframe, 1 bolt this end, and obviously then I've taken the whole knuckle off with it. So now I'm going to get this whole assembly into the press on the bench and hopefully push this bolt through, because that's the troublesome bolt. As you can see, I've actually bent it because I hit it so hard, so it's definitely not having any of it. If I can't get it out, then I'm not really sure what I'm going to do next, but let's get this on the bench and see if the press works. Right, as you can see now, we're on the vise on the bench, and I've ground these 3 rivets off, and you can just about see the outlines of them if you look really closely there, if the camera will focus. We've got one there, and one there, so I'm going to try and knock those out now. That will then hopefully release this lower ball joint, so we haven't got to keep lugging this big lower arm around when we're trying to get this bolt out of here, because this is the bolt we can't get out. So I'm going to get those knocked out and I'll come back to you in a second. Right, I've resorted to brute force and violence with this because I'm getting the hump of it now. As you can see, I've cut the ball joint off, and that has allowed me to obviously split the knuckle and the ball joint. Now I can get that metal cover off, and I can hopefully get this in the press, because when they were together it was just too big and I couldn't get it in the press. So now I've got 2 separate parts I need to sort out. I need to get these rivets out, which I'm going to grind this side off as well because they don't seem to want to move. Try and push them from the other direction, and I'm going to get that cover off of there and try and get that bolt out as well. So that we're going to have a 2-pronged attack now. I'm going to carry on and I'll come back to you if I make any more progress. Right, after a lot of swearing, a real lot of heat and a lot of hitting with a hammer, finally got that bolt out. It's absolutely annihilated, but it's out. There's the bottom of the ball joint, which I cut off. That's now out as well. So we are making progress. Next job is to get these rivets ground off of this side as well. As you saw, I'll grind them up from that side. I have hit them quite hard, but they're not moving, so I'm going to go from the other side. It doesn't matter which way you get them out from, really. So I'm going to grind the heads off of this side, see if that helps free them up a little bit, and obviously get that out, hopefully. Let's carry on. Right, after a lot of ag, you can see there, that ball joint is finally out. Now I did have to bend the arm a little bit to get it out, but I ain't too worried about that at the moment. So here's the new one, as you can see there. Nice new one. It's got the plastic cover over it at the moment, and it comes with new nuts and bolts and spring washers. Now when I fit this, I'm going to put it so that the bolts are facing downward, so if any of these nuts ever back off, it won't just fall off, because the bolt can't fall out, if that makes sense. But I'm going to put some Loctite on them as well. I've got some Loctite here, thread locker, so I'm going to put some of that on it as well. It's just to make double sure that it's going to stay done up. So I'm going to fit these in. They literally just slot in like that. 3 bolts, do them up, and then I'm going to give this a little buzz back, clean up, and just give that a coat of paint just so that it doesn't go rusty. I'll come back to you in a minute. Rightio, it's the next day. The paint on the lower arm has now gone off, and I've got that bolted up nice and tight now. Instead of using the nuts and spring washers that came with it, I've actually gone with Nylox, just because I kind of trust them a little bit more, because if those spring washers ever rot and they lose their springiness, then your nuts are not got any pressure on them, pardon the expression, and they can come loose. So I've used Nylox. I've got washers underneath both sides of it as well, which it didn't come with. You can see that on both sides there now. Got washers both sides, and I've also put some blue thread lock on there as well, so hopefully that'll be nice and secure. So I'm going to get this lower arm back on the car. I'm currently waiting on a CV gator at the moment, so as soon as that turns up, it should be here this afternoon, hopefully we can start getting that side put back together. I'm going to start on the other side and start soaking it down with some WD-40 this time, to see if I can actually try and loosen it up a bit before we attack it, and see if we can get away with not having all this grief with the other side, hopefully. So I'll come back to you in a second. Okay, as you can see, the lower arm is now back on. It's just 3 bolts at the back and 1 bolt at the front. That's just hanging there at the moment. Obviously we can't do any more with that yet, because we're waiting for the CV boot, which is what I've started here. Now you can see I've cut the old one off. Obviously I mullered it with the heat, so unfortunately it's got to be changed, which is a shame, because it was the original and it was in good nick. But I'm just seeing if it's the original actually. I think it was. Anyway, I've got that off, and inside the CV joint, inside one of these little inner cups, is a circlip. It takes a little bit of finding. I haven't actually found it yet. I'm just going to go around with a little screwdriver and put it in each one of these holes until I can fill the circlip in there. And you just have to obviously open that apart slightly, and then this CV joint should pull off the end of the drive shaft. So I'm going to spend a bit of time. I've obviously got a lot of the grease out of it, as you can see by my cloth. I've wiped a lot of the grease out of it already, just to obviously try and find out where that is. Once I get that off, I'll come back to you and show you. As I say, it's just a case of opening the circlip up, and hopefully the joint should just slide off the end. I'll come back to you in a second. Okay, I was telling lies on this one. This drive shaft is slightly different. I was going on what I knew from the Puma. This one has just got a circlip on the actual drive shaft, and basically you just tilt the drive shaft, CV joint rather I should say, to the point where this inner bit is sticking out slightly. So obviously if it's on there, just bend it right down, and then you just tap it with a hammer and it just overcomes the circlip. So that is now off. As soon as the CV gator turns up, I can obviously go and get that from Ford's. We've got a genuine Ford one coming. Get that repacked with grease, obviously get the new gator on, get it all clamped up, and then we can get the rest of it back together and start on the other side, and hopefully not have as much grief with any luck. I'll come back to you in a bit. Right, as you can see, we're on the other side now, and I'm very fortunate and had a lot more success on this side. Now I snapped the bolt in half, but don't care because it's out. You can see the corrosion all around it, where it obviously expanded inside the knuckle and just completely welded itself inside. I put a bit of heat on it. I had a shield in between that bit of wood there. I set it alight slightly, but I had a shield in between the CV boot and the blowtorch this time, so I haven't damaged anything. And as you can see, I had absolutely saturated it in WD-40. And although I snapped that bolt in half, as I say, it did come out, so that's great. I've just got the old windy gun out. That's a really good tool if you haven't got one of those and you've got an air compressor. Get yourself a windy gun. So we've got 3 bolts up here which I've undone. You can just about see them. 2 there, 1 big one there, and 1 this end which is a nut and bolt. So that lower arm is now effectively unbolted. I've just got to knock the ball joint out of the knuckle. Hopefully that won't give me too much grief, and then we can take this lower arm off, replace the ball joint which was the original job, and obviously get this one back on hopefully, and then this side will be done. So hopefully this will be a lot quicker than the other side. Obviously we're still waiting for them bits at the moment. This is why I've jumped onto this side, to try and get a bit of progress done. So I'll come back to you in a bit. Okay, I've grounded the 3 rivet heads off. As you can see, they're free from this side of the arm, but they're not budging from the other side, so I'm going to have to ground the other side the same as I did on the last time, unfortunately, and hopefully that will give us enough leeway to get them out and get rid of the rust out of wherever they're being gripped from as such. So I want to get this side ground out now, and hopefully we can get this ball joint free. Right, as you can see there, that is the rivets ground out, and unfortunately I time-lapsed me knocking the hell out of it to get it out, but it was just out of shot, so you missed that joyous occasion. But anyway, it's out of the arm now, as you can see, so I'm going to give this a coat of etch primer, coat of stone chip to protect it. I've cleaned it all up with a flap disc to get all the little grooves out that I made when I was knocking it, when I was grinding it out. Both sides, you see there's a couple of grooves in it there, but that'll be fine. Get that primed up, paint, stone chipped, and then we can get the new ball joint bolted in, get this arm back on the passenger side, and then that's at least the passenger side finished off, and then once we get other parts we can carry on and get the driver's side sorted out as well. Let's carry on. Rightio, as you would have seen from that bit of time lapse there, that is that ball joint now on. I did forget to put the Loctite on, which is why I had to loosen them off again and just put a bit of Loctite under those nuts. But they are now all done up with washers both sides, nylocks again, and Loctite on the threads, so that should be nice and secure. So this is the passenger side one now. Let's get this back on the car because this was the easy side. but was the least problem. So I'm going to get this one back on the car. I've now got the parts for the other side as well, so we can get that one all put back together as well. So let's get out to the car and get this job finished off. Rightio, as you can see there now, that is the passenger side arm back on. You've got one massive 19mm bolt there, two 13mm bolts there, and a 13 and 19mm nut and bolt going through this side here. Now you can see that the ball joint is in the knuckle already, and we've got a nice new nut and bolt to go through there, because obviously I snapped the other one in half getting it off, and I've got one for the other side too, because obviously that side absolutely got annihilated when I tried to get that one out, as you saw. So the last thing is to get this pinch bolt back in here, and then that is the passenger side done. Then we can move back around to the driver's side, sort out that CV joint and gaiter, and then get the rest of it reassembled, and hopefully that will be job done. Let's crack on and get this pinch bolt in, and then we'll move around to the other side again. There we go, that is that side all done up. I did it all up with the windy gun to start with, and I've gone around it all with a breaker bar to make sure it's all nice and tight. So we can get the wheel back on this side now and concentrate on getting that driver's side sorted out. Let's get around there and get this job done. Rightio, back on the driver's side again now. Obviously we've got the new disc that we put on not that long ago to put back on. The hub, the CV joint. We've got a new bolt and nut to go through the bottom of the knuckle, the pinch bolt, and we've got a new centre hub nut. It's always usually advisable to change those if you've had them off. And in here we've got the new CV gaiter with a nice big sachet of grease, obviously the gaiter itself, and two new clips. So that's going to be the first job, is to get this gaiter onto the drive shaft, because obviously that has to go on before the joint can go back on the end of it. And we'll get it full of grease, get it all put back on, and get these clips on, and that'll be that bit back together again. And then we can put the knuckle back on all the suspension and get the brakes and everything back on, and then we should be somewhere near it with any luck. Hopefully this should go fairly easily now, because obviously everything we've got apart has already come apart, if that makes sense. There shouldn't be anything that's going to fight us as far as coming undone anymore, because we put it all back. So that is the plan. So let's crack on and get this put back together. Right then, as you would have seen from that bit of time lapse, that is the driver's side now complete with the new ball joint on the bottom of the arm there, the new bolt with the torques in the end of it. We've gone around all the bolts with the windy gun first of all, and then gone around them all with a bar after, because it's amazing actually how much torque the windy gun does, but you can always get a little bit more with a bar just after, so I always go around them just to make sure that they are as tight as they can be. We've got the new gator on there, as you can see, with the new clips. Now I'm a bit disappointed with that Ford gator, not the gator itself, but the Ford clips used to be really good. You can actually see on that one in there, the prongs face upwards and they hook over. And I always used to like that because I used to find they used to stay tighter better, but these ones now, they've actually changed them so that the prongs face inwards. You can see on that inner one in there, and I found that you can see it on the outer one there as well. So the prongs face inwards, and I don't find you can get so much tightness on them, which is basically the same as like a sort of aftermarket clip now. So they've obviously gone cheap and decided to make their clips a bit cheaper than they used to, which is a shame, because I always used to get the Ford ones because I used to like the way they did it. But there we go, it's one of those things. At least we've got a genuine boot on there that should obviously last for a fair while. We've got all the ABS sensor back in with the bracket. I did forget to put the bracket on initially, but that obviously got taken back off and put on, so that's all sorted. So we're just in sort of the stages now of getting it back on its wheels and giving it a little test drive and see what it goes like. I mean, it shouldn't be any different to what it was before really, because obviously the only part we've really changed is those ball joints, so it should be absolutely fine as it was before. I just obviously always a little bit nervous of when it's not my car, especially doing things like this. I like to make sure everything's tight. One thing I have got to do is get the torque wrench on this. I've obviously done that with a windy gun. I don't know how tight it is, obviously, because you can't tell, but I want to get a torque wrench on that. I'm going to find out the spec online, give that a proper torque up with the torque wrench, make sure that it's tight, because obviously that is the last thing you want falling out when you're going up the road. Not that it will, because it's one of those torque vectoring nuts that grips as you tighten it up, so it's actually a lot better than the one that was on there. The one that was on there was like a cage type nut, which is loads of little separate nuts that are all held in like a cage with a washer on the back of it, and they do tend to, well, you saw what happened to that one in the time lapse. I hit it with a hammer and it just blew apart. So this one's actually a solid nut this time, which is a lot better. I like that, so that's good. So I'm going to get that torqued up, get the wheel back on, and then we should be somewhere near it. Top banana. Right then, that is going to be it for this episode on MEC-TEC. As you can probably hear by my voice and general snottiness, I've not been too well for the last few days, so I'm going to have to cut this video here. The Fusion has gone through the MOT now, it's all passed, and is all good to go for another year, so that is absolutely superb. Now there are a couple of other little jobs we want to do on the Fusion, which I was going to try and get done in this video, but as I say, because I've been not feeling too great, they're going to have to wait for another video. So yeah, at least we've got it back on the road and it's usable again. That is the main thing. If you do like what you see, maybe consider hitting that subscribe button down there, and also ring the little notification bell, and that will tell you every time I upload a video. I have got Instagram, MEC_TEC1985, and I have got Facebook, MEC-TEC, for little sneak peeks during the week of what I'm up to. And all that's left for me to say is, if you want to join me soon for more automotive adventures, I'll see you again next time. Cheers guys.